I'm continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I'm reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. Right now, I am in the first book of Samuel, and I will be reading chapter 18. Now, this chapter does contain one correction from the Joseph Smith translation. What this is an inspired correction or translation of the Bible done by Joseph Smith to correct or restore portions of the Bible that have been lost over the years. But we will deal with that when it comes time. Right now, let us read chapter 18. Jonathan loves David. Saul sets David over his armies. David is honored by the people, and Saul becomes jealous. David marries Michal, a daughter of Saul. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle. Okay, so Jonathan, of course, is Saul's son, and him and David become the best friends. These are bosom pals. And I like the symbolism here. Jonathan gives him his robe, his garment, his sword, his bow, his girdle. In other words, he's turning over all of his royal clothes to David, saying, it's not just his royal clothes, it's more of him saying, you are like me. I will treat you as if you were me. I will do as good to you as I would do to myself. But let's continue, verse 5. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely, and Saul set him over the men of war. And he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. So, as it says, Saul put David kind of in charge of the army, put him as a leader, captain. Now, Abner was still the chief captain. He was still the leader of all the army, but he's giving David an army, sending him out, and David's coming back successful. And when he comes back, the women all come out to sing their praises. This seems to be just after the episode of Goliath. We're not sure exactly how long after the time of Goliath, but it's against the Philistines, and Saul is starting to become very suspicious and very paranoid about David, very jealous of him. So here, verse 10. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand, as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. Okay, so the other thing that Saul is telling David, he said David's no longer allowed to go back to his own house. He has to stay with Saul. He is his champion. He's the champion of Israel. He may not be the commander, but he's the champion. And because he is the champion, they praise David a little more than Saul, as I said. There is this Joseph Smith translation here, of course. Sorry for the noise, but somebody around here has an extremely loud muffler. Anyways, there is this Joseph Smith translation. It's just the same as before. It says here, that evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and Joseph Smith corrects this, that evil spirit which was not of God came upon Saul. But it seems interesting that it says, and he prophesied. Doesn't say what his prophecy was, but this spirit was from something, and it's just an odd way of putting things, I think. But anyways, he tries to kill David, and it says David avoided out of his presence twice. Not sure what that means. Did Saul try to kill him twice? On two different occasions, or was this twice in the same time? Anyways, verse 12. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. So again, he's not the commander of the entire army. He's the commander of 1,000. He's commander of a unit, of a military unit. But he does what God tells him to. He conducts himself wisely. He's a good commander. He's a good strategist in battle. He's very successful because God is with him. And this makes Saul very mad. Verse 17. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Maholathite to wife. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. So we remember that Saul said that whoever killed Goliath would be, he would give his daughter to the man to wife. So he offers his eldest daughter. But David is hesitant to accept because, as he said, he is a humble shepherd. And so Saul gives Merab to Adriel the Maholathite. But all this time, David and Michal have fallen in love, and they go to Saul to get his blessing. But he's devious. He said, Yes, I'll give you my blessing. And he's thinking, in this I can catch him, and I can just let the Philistines kill him. Saul is planning on David dying. He is sending him out against the Philistines in the hope that he will be killed. And this is the plan. Verse 22. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David, and David said, Seemeth it to you a small thing, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this manner spake David. And Saul said, Thus shall ye say to David, The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when the servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins. And they gave them in full tally to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. So he sends them out against the Philistines. This is all a very subtle thing. He says, Go tell David that the people want him to be my son-in-law. And David says, Well, who am I? Basically, David's saying, I don't have the money to pay the dowry. Because as is, the husband is supposed to pay the father a dowry in exchange for his daughter. David can't afford it. And so Saul very sneakily tells the servants, Go tell David that all I want is the foreskins of the Philistines. Now, The plan was to send David out and have David get killed, but David actually succeeds, and he marries Michal. When it says foreskins, now I don't really, if you don't know what that means, I don't know if I want to go into detail on that, but there is one tradition that says that the term foreskins only refers to the clothing of the Philistines. 100 garments, 100 pieces of clothing. I'm not sure which one it is, and the details are not great, so it could be. It could also be literal foreskins, so you never know. After all, the actual literal foreskins would be better proof that you killed the men and didn't just steal their clothes. But let us quickly finish this out. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass, after they went forth, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. So David is growing in popularity. The people like David. And Saul hates it. Saul's becoming very jealous, and he is now, from this point on, seeking reasons or ways to kill David. But remember, at this point, he doesn't know that David is the new king. He doesn't know about that yet. He just sees the signs, and it scares him. So we will come back to that in a minute. Well, in the next chapter, I mean.